Today on the show, my guest is Cameron Buening. Let me tell you more about Cam. Now, Cam is a performer at heart. He actually studied musical theater at Anderson University in Indiana before making his way to Main Street, USA at Walt Disney World as a performer in parades and shows. And he jumped into real estate in 2019. He's been helping clients navigate their home adventures through education ever since. Cam was recently recognized as one of the National Association of Realtors class of 2023's 30 under 30, which is a huge, huge honor. And the Indianapolis Realtors Foundations also awarded him the All-Star of the Year, also an incredible honor. He was awarded the North Side Mybor Realtors of the Year 2022, Denver Hut Rising Star 2021, and Rookie of the Year for his brokerage in 2020. Cam recently served as the assistant team leader of the KW Indy Metro North, helping to grow Keller Williams and mentor, get this, over 270 agents, which is crazy. Cam is a resident of Fishers, Indiana, with his husband, Tyson, and their two precious pups, Tucker and Kipper. Together, Cam and Tyson run a thriving real estate team that services all of central Indiana. To learn more about Cam, and by the way, if you are an agent in the Indianapolis area and you would like to work with Cam and his team, please reach out to them. The easiest way to learn more about what they can offer you is go to their website, which is the beaninggroup.kw.com. Beaning is spelled a little differently. Don't worry about it. Go to our show notes. We'll have a direct link there, and you can go right to his website. And also follow him on Instagram. His Instagram, we will also have a link to in the show notes, but it is IAM underscore Cam underscore IAM. So IM underscore Cam underscore IM. We'll have a link to that for you. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
I can't believe how much you've done in your short tenure in real estate. It's really, I've interviewed a lot of people on the show over the years, like hundreds and hundreds, and this is truly remarkable. So congratulations on all your success. It really is inspiring. It's really fun to talk to newer agents like yourself who are just crushing it. Let's go to the beginning though, because you started out in performing, and
Mhm.
I would love to hear about making the shift from musical theater to real estate, because that is quite a shift, or maybe not, I don't know, but let's hear about it. So why this shift? You started out, did you want to be an actor? Was that sort of the goal, or?
Yeah, so I studied music theater at Anderson University here in Anderson, Indiana. I was really not sure exactly which direction I was going to go. I did some TV and film when I was in college as well. So, some people thought I was going to end up out in LA. I think pretty quickly I realized that Broadway was never really the route for me. But ultimately, after my senior year of college, ended up auditioning for Walt Disney World, and got cast as one of their performers down there, and spent a year at Disney performing in parades and shows and all four parks at all kinds of different resorts. Did their Christmas parade, all kinds of stuff. And it was an incredible, incredible experience, especially for that time of my life. When I went down there, I was fresh out of college, and there was a lot of, people either in college or fresh out of college that head down to Disney for their college program. It was an amazing opportunity to get away from home and kind of explore who I was, what I wanted out of life. But I pretty quickly realized that the starving artist lifestyle was not really for me. A lot of times we were working 60, 70 hours a week, was barely making any money. Even at that time, as a performer, we're one of the higher paid cast members there. And I think I was maybe making 10.25 an hour. Lived with three other roommates, sharing a place, and it just wasn't the future that I necessarily saw for myself. So decided to move back home to Indiana in 2019. Wasn't really sure what was going to be next, and got a big boy job in health insurance. and it was enough to pay the bills. It was the most money I had ever made in my life, and even that was at like, I don't know, $14 an hour or something like that. But I thought I was really
You were
making
making
it.
it.
I was making it. I just increased my weekly wage by $4 an hour, so I thought I was on the right track. And about 3 months into my job in this world of health insurance, I was just absolutely miserable. I was sitting at a computer, for 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day in a cubicle with 4 or 5 other coworkers around me, barely anybody to engage with, barely anybody to dream with. You know what I mean? And it was just a very monotonous, boring job. And I went from this lifestyle of like performing and dreaming and
Yeah.
helping people be creative and being creative myself. And now I'm sitting at a desk processing insurance claims all day.
You
Woohoo.
went from the most magical place on earth to one of the more boring places on earth. And by the way, I'm not poking fun at you or the health insurance industry. That's the industry I
Yeah.
came from prior
Okay.
to this, so I feel like I'm able to make poke
To
fun at it.
speak to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, so it was just a wild transition, and I knew I needed something different. And real estate was always something that had kind of been at the back of my mind. I didn't really have any friends or family members in real estate, so there wasn't anybody necessarily, guiding me or saying, "Oh, you should get into real estate." It was just one of those things I was interested in, and I didn't really know why, but I was like, you know what? It's $600 for a course, 90 hours here in the state of Indiana to go through that pre-licensing course. What do I have to lose? And so I took the course, passed the test, and that was January of 2019 when I walked into a Keller Williams office, signed my name, and started my career in real estate.
You started at a very interesting time, right? So 2019 was pre-pandemic, right? And then 2020 happened and everything shifted. And by the way, let's talk about your first year before we get to the pandemic. So
Yeah.
you had a really pretty good first year. Sold 9 homes, which
Hmm.
I know it, might not sound like a great first year, but it really is a great first year. It might
Yep.
not be financially a great first year, but you're at least getting deals. I know my boss, who was a rookie of the year for in 2002 when he when he started his career, he didn't get a sale for his first 7 months, and then he
Hmm.
got like 6 sales,
Yeah.
and but he ended up with maybe 9 to 10 sales in that year as well. And he was rookie of the year for one of the Chicago Association. So that is an incredible first year. How did you do it? How did you find clients? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So my first year, I really had no idea what I was doing. My first year was just about learning this entire industry and the process and the forms and the all the things, you know what I mean? So I really had no business experience. I was just out here trying to figure out if this was even something I was going to enjoy doing, if I was going to be any good at it, and if I could find, make a career out of this. So crazy enough, I actually got my first client within my first 30 days. And it was a
Wow,
referral to me. Yeah, it was actually my first two clients were referrals. One was a buyer, one was a listing.
amazing.
And what I essentially did, I guess I should go backwards. I was still working in that full time, 40-hour week health insurance job. So my husband at the time had gone back to school to be a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
And so, in order for us to make ends meet, the only way for me to pursue this career was for me to keep that 40-hour a week job. And so, that was the decision, the sacrifice that we kind of had to make. And, I would just wake up every day. Oftentimes I was at my desk in downtown Indianapolis at 6 a.m. so that I could be off work by 2 p.m. And then I would drive straight up to Carmel, which is about a 35-minute drive from where I was working. And I would sit in the office and I would listen to conversations. I would ask questions. I would just be around the people
yeah.
that were doing this for a full-time career. And it really, I think, shaped so much of the beginning of my career, just being able to be around all of these brilliant people that were so eager to pour into me when they saw me showing up day after day after day.
Yeah, people are always other realtors are often very impressed with effort, and
Yeah.
especially from younger agents. And I know agents I've had on the show who I say, "Hey, how often do newer agents come up and ask you if they can sit in open house?" And they'll say this is not uncommon either, which I didn't know until I started interviewing agents. Some agents would say, "Well, the first time someone asks, I say no." And then I
Mm,
see if they come back, and I see if they're showing up at the office, and I see
yeah.
if they're, really doing the work. Once I see, like you were saying, that, hey, this person really cares about the business, it seems to be putting in the effort, and, oh, by the way, he's working this other job. And I just want to make this one quick point. I never get to say this. Anyone who says you cannot have a part-time job and learn this business it's is it harder? Yes, of course
Yeah.
it is. It's a much harder way to go, but we all have to pay our bills. And
Yes.
everybody, and I really have a huge issue with firms that are like, you have to do it. Yes, in an ideal world, everyone would do it full time, but that's just not the reality. Of a good majority of our agents are part-time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it can be done, and you have now made that transition, and so I'm
Yeah.
hoping this becomes very inspiring to anyone out there who is working another job and who desperately wants to not work another job. Some people like keeping both, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you started out doing it part-time, and probably there were firms that probably told you that wasn't the way to do it. I'm guessing, not
Yes.
obviously the firm you joined, but other firms will go, "Oh, you're part-time, we're not interested."
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, DJ, because it's it's very true, and I tell new agents that come into our doors all the time. As you mentioned earlier, I was the assistant team leader for our market center, helping grow the company and mentor 270 of our agents. And I would have agents sit down, and the first thing they would say is, I do have another job, but I'm trying to figure out a way to quit. I'm trying to save enough money, and I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like, I'm not telling you or asking you to go upend your life and not be able to put food on the table for your family. Like, you have to even figure out if this is actually a career you want to do. And you're going to figure that out pretty quickly. And so, I appreciate you saying that, because I believe the same thing. I always tell agents, you have to do what you have to do in order to make ends meet. Now, there is something to be said, and that's a part of my story as well. I did sell 9 houses my first year. I was excited about that. I think I made about $35,000 in real estate. But the funny thing is I made just as much selling 9 houses, so less than one house a month, than I was making at a full time 40-hour a week job that I absolutely despise. And so that was kind of the aha for me of like, wait a second, I actually like this job a lot. I think I could make a career out of this. I'm getting some pretty good traction early on. And if the bare minimum is selling one house a month and I can make the same amount of money, I would much rather do this.
Well,
Uh,
let's talk about year 2, because
yep.
year 2 had a massive jump for you. So, did Cameron go full-time in year 2? No, not yet.
Mm-mm.
But how many deals did you close in your second year?
Yep. So year two, my goal was to double my business. I was a newer agent. I didn't really know what the metrics, the volume, the units, all that stuff needed to be. But I'm like, hey, if I could double it, I think that'd be pretty good. I ended up closing out the year quadrupling my business. I sold 38 units, right around 8 million in volume. Our average sales price is, fairly low in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. Right now, it's around 250,000. So for some listeners, that may be like, what? 8 million, 38 houses. So, but yeah, I was extremely excited about that. And what it allowed me to do was get to the point where I was like, there's no way I can continue working this other job, even if I wanted to. Like,
Yeah.
I just had so much business that fortunately in August of 2020, we were buying a new house, our second house, and so the day we closed, I got on a call with my boss and put in my 2 weeks notice.
Amazing.
Um, had to get out of that job as quickly as I could. So
This is an incredible story because, yeah, so for the first 8 months of 2020, Cam did have that other job, and
yep.
then and that last quarter of that second year, he was like, "All right, I cannot do both anymore." But for the vast majority of that year, you had 2 full-time jobs, and that is really a testament to your work ethic, and I suspect that goes, back to, your dedication to theater, and also
Mhm.
specifically Disney, right? So Disney, I would imagine, and I've worked at companies like Disney, not Disney directly, but I worked for Anheuser-Busch, and what I
Mm.
learned from Anheuser-Busch at the time, they were the number 1 beer company in the world, certainly in this country as well, and the precision and the perfection that they demanded. which sounds kind of funny because we don't technically think of Anheuser-Busch as being high-end stuff, but the way that they do their products, Walt Disney, same way. Everything
Yeah.
is absolutely they have to create perfection as close as possible because that's what they're selling. And
Yeah.
I imagine that probably instilled in you an amazing work ethic just because of how hard you were working for almost no pay when you were down there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to speak to the Walt Disney World Company, even just the training that you go through, I mean, down to the finest details of, when you're guiding somebody in a certain direction, either an open palm or two fingers, like everything has been thought out
Yeah.
and has a reasoning behind it. And so you're right. It really did. It was one of the best opportunities I've ever had in my life, being the young age that I was when I went down there. And it shaped so much of who I was at that time of my life. And there's still so much of my time at Disney that shows up in our work and our team, things that I've brought into our business as well. So, yeah.
And 2020 was also a crazy year to be able to do 38 sales as a junior broker. You're in your or junior agent. You're in your second year.
Yep.
You're working another job. You don't totally know what you're doing yet, but you're doing well enough. And all of a sudden, you quadrupled your business. How did you quadruple your business? What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, so there's actually a really key part of my story that happened in the first quarter of 2020. So before the pandemic even happened. So at the time, my husband and I, we were living in our first house that we bought. We were recently married just a couple of months. And like I said, he went back to school. So he left his full time job. And we really only had my income plus, the income of real estate at that time coming in. And I remember sitting down and it was sometime around January, February of 2020. And we were doing our biweekly budget. And every time we would do our budget, we would have to take $1,000 out of our savings account in order to pay our bills. And we were literally about 30 to 45 days away from completely wiping out our savings account and living paycheck to paycheck. And we sat there, tears running down our faces, like, what the heck are we going to do? I know Tyson couldn't, go get a job. He's got to be at school every day. And so it was like, all right, Cam, you got to do what you know how to do and go out there and just hit the ground running. And that's exactly what I did. And so really, when people ask me, how did you build your business? There's three things that I really kind of focused on. One of them was open houses. It's an easy answer for a lot of people, and yet a lot of people don't do them. And
Crazy number of people don't do it.
don't do it. Yeah, they don't believe in them. And especially if you're a new agent, I can't think of any other thing that you should be doing with your time. So I would do 2 to 3 open houses every single weekend. I was super proactive versus, rather than waiting for an agent to come and say, hey, I have a listing. Do you want to do an open house? Every Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, I would get on my company's, my office's listings, see what was new in the areas that I wanted to serve, and then what ones would show really well and what, ones that I thought a lot of people would come to. And I would reach out directly to those agents. Hey, can I, do an open house on 123 Main Street? And I would get 2 to 3 of them for that weekend. And then it was an opportunity for social media as well. So when you're at the house leading up to it and all of that. And so what I think it ended up doing, a lot of people talk about capturing market share, meaning like, you're in a neighborhood or an area and you sell more homes than anybody else in that area. What I was really trying to attempt, and it's talked about this in the MREA book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book by Gary Keller, is, capturing mind share.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, every person knows, I don't know, 5, 7 realtors out there. And when somebody thinks of real estate at that point in my career, where do I fit? Am I number 5? And how can I, slowly work my way up to that number 1 spot? And part of that was, making it appear as though I was a lot more successful in real estate than I was in the very beginning. So
Sure.
my sphere, the people following me on social media and all of that, they didn't know that those weren't my listings, but they see me get into this career and I'm posting 2 to 3 listings every single week. They're like, dang, Cam is crushing it.
He's doing
You know what I'm
something. Yeah.
He's doing something, and it just really starts to build your validity. And I think because of the open houses getting people in through the door, it also built my confidence about talking this whole world and lingo of real estate. People are going to ask you questions right there on the spot that you hopefully have researched, and if you didn't, it gives you an opportunity to follow up with them. So it really built my confidence and understanding of homes in different areas and things like that. And then the third thing I did was first time home buyer seminars. So I hosted my first time home buyer seminar within about 60 days of getting into the industry. I really had no idea what I was doing. I had bought one house myself. I was in the process of helping some of my first clients, but I didn't have 100 transactions under my belt to be able to talk about all kinds of different experiences. But I knew if I didn't host one of these or I didn't talk about what I know in real estate, then I wasn't going to help anybody. And so I figured, you know what, anybody coming in the door, I probably know a little bit more than they do if they're trying to buy their first house. So I think I'll be able to help them. And I think my first one, I had 6 or 7 people come to them, and I just started doing them every quarter. So between those three things, that's really, open houses, social media, and first time homebuyer seminars. That's really what I think helped propel me forward and go from selling 9 houses my first year to
Wow.
38 my next year, because
This seems
people started seeing me as that realtor of choice and trusting me.
It's really smart too because people do, check social media usually daily, and when they can see that somebody is consistently doing something in real estate, it just it's just marketing 101. What we call immersion. They just start to see you as that over time, and that repetition eventually starts to move you up potentially because it's not, oh, he's not just a realtor. Look at all this cool stuff he's doing. He's clearly in the business, and
Yep.
that to me is super impressive. I had a question about the first time home buyer seminars. Were you doing those virtually or in person?
So pre-COVID, I was doing them in person. Once COVID happened, we actually went to host one once the world started opening back up. And we went to host one and gave an opportunity for people to be in person or via Zoom, and they could choose. And we asked them to let us know ahead of time which one. And every single person ended up selecting via Zoom. And we had 15 people on that one. And so we ended up canceling the in person option and have done them via Zoom ever since.
Yeah, yeah, we've all gotten conditioned, and
Yeah.
it is fun to do in-person events, of course, but it's certainly a lot more to put together and just a lot more to coordinate. And when you were doing your first home buyer seminars, were you also partnering with lenders or other partners that could help promote it for you or provide some, information that they could share during the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. So every first time homebuyer seminar we've done, we always partner with one of our lenders and we really go in on that together. We have at this point, nice presentation where I'll start, introduce, the lender and let them kind of take it from there, because my belief is that the most important first step of the home buying process is getting pre-approved. So why not let the lender start and educate them on what that process looks like? And then kind of come in from there and talk about why you need a real estate agent to go through this process and what a real estate agent is going to do for you through this process. And the whole goal too is, we don't talk in our first time homebuyer seminars as if like they are our clients. We are there trying to earn that business, because we do get people that we have no relationships with. They find it on social media, or, from an email campaign or something like that, posted in the library, and they'll show up to our seminars. And so, again, we want to earn the opportunity to get their business instead of talking as if we already have it.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. Is we are here to earn the business, and we're doing that by providing value and
Yep.
demonstrating value. So that I've always heard if you have to, and different schools of thoughts on this. I'm just one school of thought is if you have to ask for the business, maybe you didn't project your value well enough. And again, that's not going to always be true, but something. Very successful financial advisor once told me, if you're talking to somebody and they don't say, "How do I sign up with you?" For as a financial advisor, you probably missed something, as
Yeah.
opposed to saying, "Well, are you ready to sign up with me?" So, and I'm not suggesting you can't ask for business as well, but I love this idea of leading with value,
Yeah.
leading with education, and that I agree that that seems to be, I don't like to be sold personally. I like to go, hey, I want to see how much you're into it, how much you know, and then I'm going to pick the person I think is going to do the best job. And so I look for education in my accountant, my doctors, my the person cuts my hair. I'm like, how
Yes.
do I style this? All of these things. I look for education, and I suspect I'm not unique in that sense. So that's amazing. So you've been doing these first time homebuyer seminars for some time. Are you still doing the open houses every weekend?
So I myself am typically not doing the open houses just because I have built a real estate team now, and my focus is more on listings as well as growing the individuals that are a part of our team. So I coach all of our individuals, and we can talk more about the team as well if you'd like. But my time is spent so much with our people now that you have to figure out kind of what your unique ability is and to build my business all day long. And it doesn't mean I won't do an open house. I absolutely still will. It's just not where I'm typically serving my weekends.
Sure. And it's interesting too. So as you haven't just built a team, you've also mentored almost 300 agents, which I'm only laughing because it's such an absurd number for how short of a time you've been in this industry, and it's just beyond impressive. So you have really helped a lot of newer agents or agents that were struggling. And I'm curious, you already mentioned your sort of three-tiered approach, which is, social media, um, open houses, and I forgot what and first-time homebuyer seminars. Um,
Mhm.
are those typically how you would coach a newer agent today? Somebody who No, okay, he's shaking his head. So what would you
Nope.
say to an agent who's starting today? I want to hear it.
Yeah. So, I think the funny thing is when I speak at panels or at events or things like that, people always want to know, Cam, what did you do to build your business? And they think that if I tell them the secret sauce, they're going to turn around and do it, and it's going to work exactly that the same way for
Right.
them. And
Yeah.
that couldn't be further from the truth. And so what I always tell people is you have to figure out what works for you. If I tell you to go do an open house and you want to claw your eyes out, then open houses probably aren't going to be your thing. If somebody tells me to go door knocking, I'm going to run and hide. So I had to figure out what are the things that do actually bring me joy? What are the things that I, love to do? And I'm going to wake up every single day motivated and excited to do it. And so that's exactly the way I'm going to coach an agent. Now, here are some ideas on things that you can do, and if one of these sounds interesting to you, go study the people that are doing that at the highest level and master it. And what I talk with a lot of new agents about, I think one of the pitfalls new agents have, and maybe even some experienced agents as well, is everybody's out here trying to be the master of everything. And we're all out here digging these, you know, 100 foot wells versus going out and digging 1,000 foot well and digging it deeper and better than anyone else out there. And so what I mean by that is, if you're going to do open houses and you say this is the thing that I'm going to give a shot, you can't do two, nobody shows up, and you say, well, open houses stink, I'm never doing them again. No, you have to commit to it. You have to study it. Go study the people that are doing open houses every weekend. How many signs do I have to put out? How many do I have to do? Am I doing them in the right areas? Am I doing them on the right days and the right times? Because the reality is there are teams and agents all across the country that produce millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue every single year from open houses. And so you've got to go out, and when I coach new agents, it's really figure out what your three pillars are going to be and go focus on those.
Yeah, hyper focus, and also, geographically, I'm also a big fan of, you're in a major area. You
Mhm.
have metropolitan Indiana, you've got or Indianapolis, you've got the suburbs
Yep.
like Carmel. Wait, Carmel? No, Carmel. Yeah, I always
Yep.
forget
Carmel.
California, Carmel, and Carmel in Indianapolis. Which, by the way, I've been to Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah.
That's where like all the really good schools are, I think, from what I understand. And
Yep.
it's a really great suburb. There used to be RCA, the old electronics company, used to be out there. But anyway, a million years ago. But that is neither here nor there. But yes, but the idea of specializing, I think,
Mhm.
is really really important, and I think you're right too. It's you got to do what you enjoy because you're going to be doing a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you're selecting as your marketing or your business development or client acquisition sort of tasks, you better enjoy that to some extent because and the other thing too, because you just said something that was really quite profound, and I want to just not discredit it at all because you're absolutely right, but I wanted to add something onto it. So it's funny because I was thinking about myself as you were talking about this. So I've done this podcast for I think 6 years now, and I would love to tell you that I am the best podcaster in the real estate space. That would be that's not true. So I'm not going to say that. I don't think I am, but I have a pretty big following, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's because I'm so good. It's just because I've been doing this consistently for 6 years. So, we're one of the most listened to shows. Maybe I have some sort of natural ability at it. Maybe I've gotten better over the years. I'm sure that's true. But here's what I haven't done, which is what I should be doing, which is what Cam just said. I should be studying the other podcasts that are in my space, not
Mhm.
so that I can beat them, but just so that I can see what everyone else is doing and how do I elevate my own game? How do I
Yeah.
become a better interviewer? How do I bring the best out of my guests?
Yes.
And Cam just actually inspired me to start doing that myself. But I will tell you, even if you don't improve your skills and you just show up and do the work consistently, you will get some still pretty impressive results.
Yes.
So, what do they say? Like success is 90% just showing up.
Yeah.
So, what has Cam done since since he's been in real estate? He didn't have time to start a second career, but he did. He had a need to, and he found time to go to the office after his first job. I've never heard of anybody doing that, by the way. That is so cool that you did that. And by the way, not easy. And he
Yeah.
was doing that. He was hanging around. He was absorbing what other agents told him. He was in the presence of great agents, or at least some great agents
Yeah.
at your firm. And he just, got a lot of opportunities just from being around. And he's like, I'm going to do open houses every single weekend. Of course, you got better at them as you went along. And also, you were studying to how do I make these the most effective and efficient ways. And you like doing them.
Yeah.
So it really is this magic combination of you should like what you're doing because you're going to do a lot of it. So pick something you enjoy. But also, too, if you can, next level is start studying the other people doing things. In fact, if it was me, I'd go to other people's open houses and
Yeah.
start to see, especially the really big producers, be like, what are they doing? Because I'm sure there's little tricks and I'm sure you probably did that too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what to do and also what not to do. I remember
Mhm.
going into open houses and, nobody would greet me. There's an agent just sitting there at a table, and I'm like, Are we gonna engage at all?"
And
And I
they don't know you're a realtor maybe even at
No,
that
they
point.
have no idea. I mean, there's still people. I'm pretty involved in our industry at this point, but there's still a ton of people that don't know who I am. So I could walk into somebody's open house today to study or, to see what's going on. And yeah, I mean, there's so many open houses I went into that nobody would engage with me. There was nothing I filled out for them to capture my information. You know what I mean? So definitely study people and make sure you're studying the right people, and also be aware of what you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and you only will know that after trying as many
Yes.
options as possible. And so you talked about if you were coaching a new person today, you would probably suggest for them to try a number of different activities, business development activities, also learning. Oh, let's talk about learning the market. How
Hmm.
do you approach mastering your market? Because it's one thing to get clients, and I think we've given some great advice there, but also then you have to take great care of them and you have to know what you're doing. So, how are you mastering your market and what advice do you have for agents to start to develop that mastery?
Yeah. So we are very numbers oriented on our team. We track a lot of things, and that did not just happen one day. You know what I mean? I didn't just wake up and I'm like, oh, these are all the things I'm going to track. I have all this experience. I always tell people, like, I come from dancing on Main Street, USA. I did not have any background in business or business experience. I was a server for most of my life as well. You know what I mean? So everything I have learned has been because I've put myself in front of people that are doing all of this 10 times better than I am doing. And I'm sitting there front row, ready to learn, taking notes, asking questions. So you got to be willing to do that. But every single week in our team, we track the market numbers. So basically, the two main markets we service, Marion County, which would be where Indianapolis would reside, as well as Hamilton County, which is where I live, our office is. It's one of the, consistently ranked one of the number one counties all across the United States, Carmel, Fishers, all that good stuff. And we track everything on there from how many new listings hit the market, how many sold, how many pended, how many expireds, what's the median sales price, all of that kind of stuff. And we look at that data every single week because it helps us better understand what's going on in the market. And it helps us look at trends. So when things are going up and going down and things like that, is this some freak thing that's happening because interest rates went up or down a whole percentage? Or is this cyclical? This happens consistently. Or is this the result of a global pandemic? All of these things, by tracking that consistently and looking at it every single week, we can better educate our clients as well on, hey, this is actually a great time to sell because based off this time last year, there was low inventory and a high number of homes that were pending. That shows us that, there's going to be a lot of not as much competition out there for you and more people looking at your home. So we really track and look at all of those market statistics on a weekly basis as a team and have conversations around it with our team too, so that our team can go out there with our buyers and sellers and have those conversations as well.
Curious about how you and the team are handling the low um, inventory sort of issue that pretty much every major market is facing right
Yeah,
now. So, is that a thing in your current market? And how are
extremely.
you help coaching your team on how to still thrive or survive during time when there's less opportunity?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess to the benefit of the time I got into this industry in January of 2019 and then going into COVID, pretty much the entire business I've ever known has been low inventory. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm having to pivot my strategies or anything. It has always been having to be really creative on helping my clients find properties. And a lot of times that might be off market properties as well. So we have conversations around that as well. If an agent on our team is saying, oh, I've been working with Susie for 2 months and I just can't find anything, we're constantly losing offers. We got to sit down and strategize because clearly what's hitting the market, they don't have the ability to go above and beyond and be as strong as as maybe they need to. So maybe we need to look at finding something off market. So we'll do mailers to a community. There's a way through Remind to pull an entire community and actually access their email addresses. Most people are just going to send mailers, but you can actually access people's email addresses and you can send information about open houses. You can send information to them. Hey, I have a client that's looking for these specific, 3-2 in Hamilton County. Are you interested in selling? Those kind of things. So you just have to be willing to do things that no other agent is willing to do. And if you sit back and just wait for the houses to hit the market, well, you're going to be out there in the long line waiting to get in like everybody else is.
Yeah, I agree. So I was just looking up while you were talking there on what the current interest rate is as of today for a 30-year fixed. And if I'm looking at my numbers correctly, there's a chance you may be correcting me, but I believe the national average is 7.3
Yep.
and we're seeing as low as 6.4. So somewhere in that range. That is obviously higher than most people would have preferred today, as well as in the past several years when we saw 3% rates or less. But that's not where we are anymore.
Yeah.
So, how are you coaching your buyers who are, interest rate sensitive to, I'm going to wait until the market comes down? What is your approach? Or, sorry, I'm going to wait until interest rates come down.
Come
So,
down.
what would be your approach if you have a buyer who's in that position?
Yeah. So, and we've had this conversation a lot. I actually just had a listing appointment a couple of weeks ago with some sellers that thought they were going to wait until the fall to sell because they wanted to save a little bit money. And we had a conversation on, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to do what's best for your guys' situation. And yet, let's look at what the price of the home is that you would likely purchase today is. Okay, you have a budget, you want to go up to 500. So this same house that you're going to buy for 500,000 over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, all of these other homes around that are going to start selling. and they're going to see that that house sold for 500, so they're going to try to get 510, 525, 540. Next thing you know, this exact same house that you wanted to purchase, if we purchase it today at 500, is going to maybe cost you 540,000 here in the fall. And also that you could save an extra three, five, 10,000 bucks. So really, what is the cost of wait? What is waiting costing you? And when it comes to the situation of interest rates, the reality is interest rates just are what they are right now. We've been hearing, and I know you feel this too. I mean, we've been hearing for over a year that interest rates are coming down, and we were told this year that we've got several interest rate drops coming, and they actually ended up going up.
Right.
They came down and they jumped right back up. And so, if everybody's just going to sit around and wait for interest rates to drop, I mean, you could be waiting 2 or 3 years before they get to a point of what they might feel comfortable. So, what I tell people is, if you can afford the payment now, the only thing that's going to happen, I hope, the only thing that's going to happen over the course of the next couple of years is interest rates do come down. You're able to refinance, and you're going to be able to cut a good chunk of money off of your monthly payment every single month. But make sure you can afford the payment and feel comfortable with that payment now. And then you're only going to feel better because now you've got the house. You're seeing every other house around you sell for even more than what you bought it for. And your interest rate came down. So your monthly payment just dropped as well.
Great point. And basically what Cam is saying is if we wait until interest rates drop by, 100 basis points or 200 basis points, we are going to see the pricing explode because more buyers flood the market, and we're going to not only have more expensive homes that are currently what they're priced today at, but more competition. We're going to have
Yeah.
a lot of people, and we're going to start to see what happened several years ago, which if you were able to buy something and you were lucky enough to get an offer accepted, good for you. But a lot of 95% of offers didn't get accepted because there
Yeah.
were dozens and dozens of offers. Last question. Now this is a question you may not have dealt with yet, but it is on everybody's mind. Technically, in the co-op field, we can now offer $0, 0%. I don't know if you've seen this yet. However, if you were to see this, you're working with a buyer, and you see in the co-op compensation field that it is $0. So, in other words, the seller is not going to be compensating you as the buyer's agent. Have you started to think about what you would do in that situation?
Absolutely. So, number one, buyer agency agreements all day long.
Yeah.
I've been using them since I got into this industry and just always have. So, for me, it's not something I've ever shied away from conversations around the value that I, as an agent, provide to our clients. We, in our market currently, have not necessarily seen any of the $0, zero commission, things like that yet. And yet, who's to know when they will hit? The
They
Midwest.
will at some point.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Midwest is oftentimes one of the last to see some of these things trickle in. But yeah, absolutely. And we're having conversations not only with our team, but with our brokerage as well on how to make sure we're preparing our agents on how to have these conversations. And it's really about just, explaining your value. And if you can't explain your value to your client, well, then you're going to have a hard time, when it comes to having that conversation. And I hope more and more agents, in fact, there's actually a bill going through the state house in Indiana that would make it law, put it into law and really leave it up to the brokerages more so. But if that doesn't pass, then the Indiana Association of Realtors has already, requested that IAR make it a requirement. So regardless of whether you feel comfortable with it now or not, it's going to be something, at least in our state, that people are going to be required to start having conversations around. And what's always interested in me is we require listing contracts when it comes to sell a home.
Right.
Why in the world do we shy away from, um, you know, signing and establishing our working relationship with somebody?
Well, it is a tricky conversation to work with buyers and say, "Hey, just in case this were to happen,
Yep.
we have to figure out a way to compensate me. Here's a couple of ideas." And maybe that buyer comes out of pocket, or maybe you try to negotiate with the seller to
Yep.
afford you some sort of commission. or whatever. There's a million different ways to do it. And hope that there will be service providers that sort of come to the rescue of a buyer. And, maybe it's a separate mortgage with its own interest rate just for the commission. Who knows? Something will get figured out, but
Yeah,
it's important to sort of have an answer for that today, as opposed to, well, what if, or not opposed to, if that were to happen, here's how I will be compensated by you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. And that is a tricky conversation because we've never
sure.
had to have that before. So
Yeah,
it is a new thing, but it will all get worked out. But I'm glad to say that I'm glad to see that even though you haven't seen it in your marketplace, certainly you will see it at some point. And hopefully it won't become the norm, but time will tell. But I love the fact that you have devoted so much of your success to either being educated yourself or educating your customers and clients. You're doing it
yeah.
through market, through education around first time home buying. You're doing it through open houses and really just immersing yourself in the business. And I would we're wrapping up now. I would like to encourage anyone who is in it's Hamilton County and Marion County, if you are an agent that works in those areas and you feel you're not getting the attention you need from your existing team, your brokerage, wherever you might be working, and you want to see another option. Well, Cam is his team is growing, and
That's
he and his
true.
team are crushing it, and he would love to not just have you on the team possibly, but also mentor you and give you some great advice. He's mentored almost 300 agents already, which is unbelievable. So, Cam, for anyone out there who's like, I may want to check out what Cam Buening and his team are going to offer, what's the best way they should reach out to you?
Yep, you can follow us on social media. So mine again on Instagram is I am Cam I am. That's usually the best place to get a hold of me. I've almost maxed out on Facebook, so please don't friend request me because I probably
He
won't be
might
able.
not friend you back.
I might not accept it because I'm down to just a handful more. So, but yeah, Instagram is going to be the easiest way to find me, and you can give me a follow, direct message me, and if you have interest and further conversations about joining a team, our brokerage or our team, I'm more than happy and would be honored to chat with you.
And not only that, Cam will also let you know if you're not a good fit for
Yeah.
what he's looking for.
Yes.
And I mean that in a very
Yep.
positive way. He may
Yeah.
even direct you, hey, I know this other firm that would be perfect for you. Cam is just a really generous, lovely person. So please
Mhm.
reach out to him. He'll point you in the right direction, whether it's to his team or even elsewhere. And he's a 30 under 30 nominee or award winner. So this is something the National Association of Realtors does every single year. And they basically look for the 30 best and brightest who are new or under 30 years old and essentially new to the business. And you have obviously caught their eye. I'm actually heading over to the National Association of Realtors the minute after I leave
Oh,
here
cool.
because the Chicago Association is in the same building. But if I run into any National Association people who are part of the 30 under 30 committee, I'm going to be like, I just talked to Cam Beating. And they'll probably say, oh, that guy's great. But anyway,
Yeah.
so please, guys, reach out to him. And by the way, if you are a realtor in another part of the country and you have clients that are moving to Indianapolis or the suburbs of Indy, yeah, talk to Cam and his team. They are the kings of the metro area and places like Carmel and the other surrounding suburbs. Please
Mhm.
consider him as an agent to refer to. And guess what? A lot of Cam's clients, when they retire, they're probably going somewhere south, somewhere warm.
Yeah.
So he is going to, in fact, you may even have a license in Florida or something someday too.
One
Uh,
day.
yeah, yeah. So definitely reach out to him. It'd be a great partnership, and maybe you guys can pass some referrals back and forth. All right, Cam, thank you so much, Cam Beaning, everyone. He and we didn't mention your husband is also on your team, and you guys
Yeah,
run this team together. So
we
you
do.
and Tyson are this powerhouse team. Is he also still teaching, or is he doing this full time? Or
Nope. Yeah. So he left teaching in 2021 and came and joined me on the dark side of real estate. And yeah, we've been running it together ever since. He is our director of ops. And so he wants nothing to do with sales. And that's why it works for us. We just
I
stay in
love
each
it.
other, stay out of each other's lanes.
Very, very smart. And when it's two committed people working together, you have to have that figured out, and you guys
Yeah.
have that figured out. So congratulations. Not an easy thing for a married couple to do, but you guys are doing it, and obviously it's working. So Cam, on behalf of everyone on our show, or listening to our show, please, we thank you. You're an incredible young man. I don't want to say young man. Sound makes you sound like you're a teenager. You're an incredible man in his 20s who is really crushing it in real estate. We're so honored to have you on the show. So thank you on behalf of the audience. On behalf of Cam and myself, thank you to the audience for making it to the end of the episode. Please tell a friend. Please share this with another agent, in maybe a newer agent, somebody who's newer and
Mm.
struggling. And if you're newer right now, you're probably struggling a little bit. So
Yeah.
share this with someone else in your office. It may just give them the motivation or some strategies to actually move forward. Cam gave some really specific examples of what to do if he were new. And also, so on behalf of everyone, thank you. We thank Cam, and tell a friend, and also leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show, whatever podcast app or social platform you might be listening to us on, or watching us on. Please let us know what you think of the show. It really helps us improve so we can continue to better serve you, and also support our sponsors. We love our sponsors, and they are the ones that keep the whole ship afloat. So thank you so much to everybody. And Cam, we will see you. Continue to watch your star rise, and then also want to also remind everyone that we do several episodes of these a week. So we are also, one last thing I'll mention, we are starting again to do short form video clips. So we finally got a system in place. So we're going to be posting several short form video clips per day on all the different social channels. So just search for the Keeping It Real podcast. You'll find us, hit that subscribe button, and we'll start serving up content, not just twice a week, but literally like twice a day with these short form clips, which we will have many of those for today's episode as well. So watch out for that. All right, Cam, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you.